funny because, Africa is one of those places that people talk about, like, that's where all the miracles happen. If you want to see a miracle, you got to go over to Africa, because for whatever reason, God moves a lot over there. And I can tell you firsthand, He really does. It was the most amazing trip I've ever been on in my entire life. I saw things that I cannot deny. I experienced God moving, actually seeing God move in a powerful way. So I met this guy named Pastor Colin McGeer, and his job at the church that he started out, he was one of like 22 pastors in this really big mega church in South Africa. And his job was to go around and verify that miracles that he was hearing about were actually happening. And so he went to, it was a church that a pastor named T.B. Joshua was the pastor of. So he goes down there with a couple of medical doctors just to verify that if somebody is so-called being healed, that they were actually sick before they got healed.
We'd gone there as a group. We'd gone to T.B. Joshua as a group, and while we were there, they brought a lady in a car that had a baby die. She wasn't aborting it. She wasn't giving birth to it. I don't understand it, but the doctors said that they needed to operate to take the baby out. So she said, I'm first going across to T.B. Joshua and get prayed for before I allow the doctors to take it out. So she got there, and when T.B. heard she was outside in the car, he asked for midwives, and there were some midwives amongst the 30,000 people there. About 3 of them went to the car, and they went to minister to the woman, and he told them, go and let that woman give birth. So in a short space of time, she gave birth to this dead baby, and we were there to experience it. We saw everything that had happened, and this baby was really dead and smelly and just this white gooey stuff all over the baby. And they tried to resuscitate the baby. They had a little pipe they pushed up the baby's nostril, and they were blowing in it. They were pressing the baby's chest. They were praying all at the same time. They were slapping the little baby. Actual fact, I felt like, please stop, leave the poor child alone. But they continued. And about an hour or so, they sent a message to TB, and they said, this baby is not living, it's dead. And he had a sermon that he printed on a double A4 page, and he said, take this and go wrap it around the baby, because God sent His word and healed their disease. So they took his sermon and they wrapped the sermon around the baby, and we stood by watching the whole thing happening. And within seconds, not minutes, even seconds, the baby's eyes flipped open and the baby started screaming, crying, totally alive. That was the coolest testimony or healing I've ever seen in my life.
That's so cool.
I haven't seen one better yet.
Did they give the baby to the mama?
Yeah, they did. And actual fact, we came back about a year later, and the mama was in the meeting with the child. We saw the child.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, while I was there, what I was doing was walking around with Bobby Leja. He was going to a bunch of different churches, and he is a prophet and a pastor, and he has an incredible testimony. Now, some people think that prophecy is always a hoax. It's always just some kind of trick that you would do, a parlor trick or something like that. But I can tell you, he prophesied had to have been over 1,000 people, first-hand prophecies, and didn't miss one single time. And he was very specific with some of the words that he was saying. I remember one in particular that was really amazing. He's sitting there prophesying over a guy that looks pretty average. He didn't look like some rich guy at all. And Bobby's prophesying over this man. He's talking about how he owns a business and how he's going to be going worldwide, and he's going to be shipping these 3 different things overseas, and that his name of his company is going to be on the side of billboards and inside the stadiums. And I'm like, Bobby, you are being really specific. And then he goes on and he talks about he's going to have a sailboat, and he's going to sail across the world, and how the logo of his company is going to be on the side of his sailboat, and him and his wife are going to find peace whenever they're on this sailboat and they're sailing across the world. And I'm like, Bobby, what in the world are you talking about? So I'm thinking, wow, Bobby really missed it, but I'm just going to go ahead and ask the guy if it was true at all. I didn't record the actual the prophetic word that he gave you, so tell us what that was and then go from there.
He said about the boat. He said about properties worldwide. He said about business worldwide, products going out in containers, and we've got the prophetic wall at home where exactly what Bobby said is on our prophetic wall. Exactly. Our catamaran that we're praying to God for, properties that set out in trust all over the world there, and a business that we're busy with to convert containers into student accommodation. And he said three products going out in containers worldwide.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. So it definitely spoke to you.
Definitely.
That's
Perfectly right on the dot.
That's awesome. What were you thinking whenever you were saying it? What?
I just said thank you God. It's a confirmation of what exactly we are praying for.
Okay, so he just told me also that one of the things that Bobby said was that this, what's it called, the boat? What do you call them?
Catamaran.
Catamaran. It's a sailboat that that Bobby actually prophesied over him. He said, you want to sail the world in this thing. I remember it being such a random thing. I was like, man, Bobby's really taking a risk with this one. And he said that Pastor Colin knows, and the whole church knows that that's actually something that he wants to do, and like the whole church knew about all the businesses and everything too. So it was really incredible. And the name of the boat, what was the name of the boat? Shiloh, which means place of peace. And Bobby actually said in the word, that's where you're going to find peace, is in that boat when you're sailing. So it was such a crazy confirmation, really awesome. And him and his wife already have plans to go sailing all across the world on this sailboat. And this is in Johannesburg. This is not like in, Cape Town or something like a coastal city. This is in Johannesburg, which is in like the middle of South Africa. It's really far away from the coast, in the desert. Not, very strange. This was not something that just came out of Bobby's head. It wasn't some kind of parlor trick, because he did this over and over and over and over. So specific. I've got several testimonies I'm going to show you just to prove that this was not at all some kind of parlor trick. And people were coming up to him and describing this insane prophecy, and their minds were blown. And so was mine. And I got to see this firsthand.
I went to the prayer tower to pray a spirit word, and these three ladies were walking across, and they asked me for directions or something, and then God had me pray for them and give them a word, and it's come to pass.
And he said to me that he said to me, I will bring a blessing more than a power. And I said to myself, wow, what a blessing. And a week after that, my blessing is coming. I get a house with a swimming pool and everything. He told me there's a manifestation in my body, and it was a pill, and I was blessed. The Lord healed me on that. That's how great God is.
That is so cool.
Yes.
One of the things that was really amazing, there was a lady that Bobby was prophesying over, and he said to her, your mom is sick right now. And she was like, no, my mom's not sick. And I was like, uh-oh, he missed it. And he was like, no, I'm pretty sure she's sick. And it's some medicine that she took. She had some kind of adverse reaction to some medicine. And the lady was just kind of like, okay, just being nice. And then Bobby continued with his prophetic word. And then he goes on to the next person. Well, the next day, this lady walks up to Bobby, and I was right there next to him. And she says that she's the mother of that woman that got prophesied over. And this woman went home, told her mom about the prophecy. The mom says, actually, I am sick, and it was because of some medicine that I took that day.
On Friday night I wasn't well, and Bobby prayed for my daughter. He gave her a word that I'm not well at all, but my daughter didn't know about it.
Oh, wow. I remember that word.
You remember that word?
Yeah.
And I was the lady who spoke about
wow.
it. And then she phoned me, and I told her I'm not well, but she said, Mommy, he said you will be well. He gave me a word.
Amen.
The Lord will touch you. It was a tablet that I drank. And I knew throughout the day it was that tablet that caused.
Wow! I remember him saying that.
Spot on. And the next day, I received my healing, and I came.
That is so awesome. You know, there were several opportunities for me to talk to people that had experienced firsthand miracles. So I recorded several videos.
I'm Gerrit Grobler. Well, for you guys it'll probably be Garrett Grobler because of obvious reasons. But yeah, so testimonies. We've seen some really awesome stuff. This one happened really recently. My sister-in-law's colleague's wife got a heart attack in the beginning of August. And there was just nothing, no response, no heartbeat, no breathing, nothing. And they tried CPR, they tried everything. They got her hooked onto a machine at hospital that breathed for her and everything, you know, the whole heart and lung function machine. And but there was no response, there was nothing coming from all the electrodes and stuff they put on her. And for 24 hours, nothing. And so I got this message that said, this lady's heart stopped, can I go pray for her? So I said, sure. So we went to the hospital. That was 24 hours later, I came there, more than 24 hours later actually. And so she was there hooked up on machines and so on. And I just stood next to the bed, stretched out my hand over her, and so I prayed a simple prayer. Her husband was right there next to her and some other family member there. And I just felt immediately like the presence, like a cloud around me. And then the cloud moved over the bed. And I knew something happened. So yeah, that was about 20 seconds or so. So I just said, well, I believe something happened, so please keep me posted. And later that afternoon, they sent a message that said her heart spontaneously started to contract. Wow. And later on, the next day, her heartbeat was absolutely normal. They took her off all the machines, and yeah, the day later she went home. And so all the doctors said this is a miracle. It just cannot happen medically.
Wow.
So, but she was basically dead for a day, and she came back. And in that same week, a lady at our church prayed for a dead baby, totally blue, no breath, no nothing. She just spoke words of life, and the baby came back, and that was also pretty cool.
Wow.
And then another testimony. There was this lady dying of AIDS. I met her at the hospital in Mamelodi. And she was so skinny, there was just nothing. She was just like skin and bone, very light. I could pick her up like this. And she sat in a wheelchair. She was too weak to walk or anything. A lot of pain. Her skin, a black lady, but her skin was grey. And there was no life in her at all. She had sores all over her. Her eyes were like drawn into her head like this. And she had no power, just full of pain. And I prayed for her, and but I was just such a boldness came over me. I just said, Jesus is healing you today. And when she sat down, she said, the pain is gone. Okay, so I left it at that, and then a couple of weeks later, I filled up my car at a filling station close to where I live, and here this hysterical woman came running out, and that was her. She was back at work. Wow. She was totally healed. No, it was actually more than a couple of weeks, a couple of months later. And then she asked me to pray for her because she was getting too fat.
Wow.
I'm thinking of two miracles that really blessed me. We went to Mamelodi Hospital one Thursday afternoon, like we do every week, and there was a guy that had gallstones. So he was lying on the benches. He couldn't move. He was in so much pain, and nobody has helped him yet. So I said to him, well, your answer came today. It's not by chance that we are here. So I laid hands on him. I prayed about 2 or 3 times, and every time that I prayed, he could move a little bit more. And by the end, he was standing up and walking around, and he said to me, well, there's no more pains and he cannot feel anything, so does it mean that he can go home now? And then he got on and he walked home. He didn't visit the hospital, so that was something that was really cool. And I'm thinking another thing that once happened about 2-3 years ago. I went with friends of ours to Zimbabwe, and we ministered there, and our friend from Zimbabwe prophesied over me. And one of the things that he said that like a certain cathedral that I have visited that is gold plated, I will build a kingdom of God. So from that next night, when I laid my hands on people, there were gold dust on them. So I prayed for a lady and a daughter, and they were totally covered in gold dust. And the next day we came home to South Africa, and for 7 days I had gold dust on my hands every day. And we had a cell group in that week, and everybody that I prayed for got gold dust on their hands. So that was just like a sign to confirm what the prophet had said when he said, I will build a kingdom. So God just confirmed his word.
Yeah, there was another time he asked me to preach in their church, and there was this lady that she came for prayer from Bulawayo in Zimbabwe, and she was terminal with cancer. And I called her out. I knew she was there before the time Prophet Kobus told me she came from Zimbabwe, and he just wanted me to pray for her. And then I just called her out and prayed for her. Very simple. Her pain left and everything. And even months later, even years later, this year even, she sent me messages saying she's still healed, she's still perfectly fine, she is going on 100%.
Well, the first church that we stopped at was Spirit Word Church. Now, Spirit Word in South Africa is incredibly popular. In fact, actually all across Africa, Spirit Word has become very famous because of Prophet Kobus van Rensburg. You may have heard of him. It was an incredible man of God that actually on his list of miracles is 20,000 people that were paralyzed that ended up walking. 20,000 people. In fact, some pictures of the church, there's actually a giant cross that they built that was made out of crutches and walkers. Where these came from was people came to Prophet Kobus van Rensburg's church to get prayed for by Prophet Kobus. He'd pray for them, and then God would miraculously heal them, and so they would no longer need these braces anymore, these neck braces, the crutches, anything, and so they would just donate them to the church. Now, Kobus Jr. was Prophet Kobus' son, and he was there whenever the miracles were happening like crazy. So he has several miracles that he's seen firsthand that really blew his mind. And so I asked him if he could just tell me a couple of the miracles that he's seen firsthand. And this is one of the miracles that really blew his mind.
Did you see any cool testimonies in service?
Oh yeah,
You're talking to Americans, okay? So don't be so normal whenever you're... Miracles don't happen as often over there for some reason.
Well, there's once, and the people that came to our services, a lot of times they came there after the doctors have given up hope. So you'd find people with HIV coming there, they couldn't walk anymore, they had to be carried in. Their legs literally skinnier than my arms. Skinnier than someone with skinny arms.
Like mine.
You know, there's one, I can remember there's one guy, he came in and he had sugar diabetes and there was something else wrong as well. And then right in the worship, he died. I mean, the doctors already sent him home to die, so they brought him there on his last. And during the worship, he died. And my mom was trying to get all the cameras away, you know, she didn't draw attention to this, they carried him to the back. My dad stood up, preached for 2.5 hours. Then, after he preached, he found out that someone died in the church. He got them to carry this guy to the front, called all the cameras, and said, this guy is going to come back to life. He prayed, and nothing happened. It's then when things get really quiet. And he started walking around this guy praying. Then he went and lied down on the body and he started praying. He just wouldn't give up. Then he walked around and he had them sit him up in a chair. And he was aggressive. He went up to the guy, put his hands on him. He said, I speak life. And you can check on the screens, you just check this guy's cheeks pop out like this. And he came back to life. This was after like 3 hours of being dead in church. Now, because of what we did, there was always some doctor hanging around or an ambulance guy, so
There was the doctors. They declared him dead. And then after 3 hours, you know, God just brought him back. But I can tell you, when we sat in the service, I mean, my dad was praying for him for, I don't know, 20 minutes, I don't know. I would have given up a long time ago. But he prayed. When that guy's cheeks popped open, it was like electricity that would shot through the heart. You knew anything is possible with God. Right at that moment, you knew that there was nothing impossible with God. That's awesome. That was a big one. That's awesome. Thank you, brother. That's awesome.
The cool thing is that the miracles didn't just stop in the church. It was everywhere they went, miracles were happening. Everywhere we went, miracles were happening. And in fact, one really cool story, whenever we were leaving, when we were about to get on the plane to come back to America, I met Quibis Jr. at the mall. He came and saw us before we left. We ended off a good conversation. We hung out for a little bit and then we prayed. And while we were praying, there was a lady that worked at the mall. She was an older black woman and she saw us praying. So then she came up to us when we got finished praying and she asked us if we could pray for her. And she came up and, you know, she's an old lady and she was like, "Oh, I'm just so sore. I saw you guys are praying. Is there any way that you could pray for me?" And so we're like, "Yeah, we can pray. We're pastors." So we ended up praying for this lady. Quibis Jr. takes his opportunity, and it was really interesting the way that he prayed. Now, trust me, this guy has seen a lot of miracles, so he's very bold whenever he prays for this woman. And he just puts his hand on her shoulder, and he says to her, "Look me in the eyes right now." And so the lady kind of looks him in the eyes, and he's like, "Jesus Christ is healing you right now." And he's like super intense whenever he's looking at her. "Jesus Christ is healing you right now." And she's like looking at him in the eyes, and then she just goes, "Whoa." And she just kind of starts moving around like this, and she's like, "Oh." And then he's like, "Well, how do you feel? How are you feeling right now?" Just really intense. I'm like, "Quibis, you're so intense." And he's like, she says, "Oh, I feel really good." And he's like, "Well, excellent, Jesus healed you." And then she just walks off, and you can see her like she completely walks off, totally different. And this was just like every day. It was every day something crazy was happening. What it really did to me was it changed my perspective, where it's not a God that's distant that you can't talk to. It's not something that's, you know, out there and we can hope that maybe one day we'll see him. But it was really that perspective of what Jesus told us to pray was, "Let your kingdom come and let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And that's what I saw while I was in Africa. I saw heaven coming to earth. I saw miracles. I saw signs. I saw wonders. I experienced firsthand things that I had been searching for and seeking after. The cool thing is that Jesus actually does do miracles. And what Jesus said to us was not, "Hey, I'm gone, so now you guys just have to deal with your problems." He said, "No, I am leaving, and it's better that I do leave because I'm going to send my Holy Spirit that's going to lead you into all truth." And Jesus actually said that we are supposed to do greater things than even he did. So if you have a problem with miracles, then you actually have a problem with Jesus. But if you believe in Jesus and you believe what the scriptures say, then you can expect God to move miraculously in your life.
So he allows me to interview the sick people, and my doctor's allowed to go and check and see, is this authentic or is it a setup? So a Muslim imam, an imam is the head of a Muslim mosque. The Muslim imam arrives with his sons bring him in a car, but he's paralyzed from his waist down. He can't walk. He hasn't walked for 6 years or something. He had a car accident and hasn't walked. But his sons bring him to TB Joshua to be prayed for. So I'm interviewing the guys, and he allowed me to go and interview them and find out if they're genuine and whatever else. So I get to this imam in his wheelchair. So I stop by, Peter Pretorius checks him, sees he hasn't got feeling in his legs, the whole thing is real, true. So I start to quiz him. I said, "When did it happen? How did it happen?" And whatever, and he tells me. And then I said to him, "Should the Lord heal you today?" Now I use that language. "Should the Lord heal you today, will you proclaim him to be your Lord?" He looks me in the eye and he goes, "No." Now I don't know what to do with that. I'm like finished. I mean, he's not going to say that Jesus is Lord if Jesus heals him. He says no. Because the Muslims believe that Jesus is the healing prophet. So they will receive healing from him, but they won't proclaim him as the Son of God or united or one with God. He's a prophet of God, one of the prophets. So he won't proclaim him as Lord. Now I don't know what to do. I'm flawed. I'm like, okay, should the Lord heal you? I don't think He's going to heal you today. You don't want to proclaim Him as Lord. So I step back. I hear TV inside call. He says, bring that man inside, because this was still outside. He said, bring that man inside. So I go in with my group and my doctor, and we go inside, and he's got like a healing section where they prayed for the sick people. He comes there, and he looks at the man, and he says, today, God's going to heal this man because of His mercy. Well, now I've got it, you know. Now I caught it. He's going to heal him because of His mercy. But he steps away, and he walks away. You know, what's he doing? He sends his disciples to go and pray for the man in the wheelchair. So, he's clever. He said today God will heal him, but now if he's not healed, it was the disciples, not him. He said he will be healed, but the disciples have fluffed it, you know, so they'll be blamed for it. But he goes and stands, and there were TV screens all over the show, and he goes and stands and he puts his hand on the TV screen, and he just watches the TV screen. His disciples go and pray for the layman, the paralyzed Muslim Imam. Bobby, like, I don't know how long, but it wasn't long. This guy pushes himself up and stands up, and he begins to walk. My goodness, that place comes alive. Everybody's screaming. The sons grab the wheelchair and they're running up and down with the wheelchair at the top of their heads. The father's walking. I'm crying. Now I'm crying. But the tears are not running down my face like that. They're like spraying. It's like not running. They go. I'm like sobbing. Oh, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I'm standing next to a lame, paralyzed man getting up out of a wheelchair and walking, and his son screaming and running with the wheelchair. And I've had a doctor check him to see if it's real. So that was the weekend, I think it is. Then in the week they have like a testimony time when everybody's been healed the previous week and come and register, and then you tell your testimony. And it takes ages. They stand and they give their testimony. Who's sitting in the front row of this whole group, 1,000 more people who've been healed in the week before? Is the Imam. He's sitting there. Yeah, I'll go greet him. It's wonderful to see you. He's got a smile. I mean, obviously, he's got a smile on his face. So when the testimonies he gets his turn to tell his testimony, he stands up and he says, Jesus healed me, and today I proclaim Him Lord of my life. It's then again. I cry, man.
That's so cool.
That was one of the other marvelous testimonies.
That is awesome.
I saw.
So one of the days while we were in Africa, we were driving over to Prophet Andre's house, and we were just going to have lunch and talk with him, which was a really cool experience, by the way. I very much encourage you to hang out with real men of God. They'll blow your mind. They're actually really cool too. So we were on our way back from Prophet Andre's house, and Pastor Gerrit told us that it's been a really long time since they've had a good rain in Johannesburg. In fact, it's been about 2 years since they've had any real good rain. And so Bobby said, okay, I'll pray and I'll prophesy that it's going to rain. We get to church, we have worship, and then Bobby's introduced as the speaker, and he gets up, and as soon as he puts the microphone in his hand, it thunders and lightnings outside really loud, and then it just starts pouring down rain. All right, Bobby is in the service right now preaching. You can see him back over there. I had to leave service real quick because I am freaking out. Right now we're in the middle of church, and it just, as soon as Bobby starts preaching, it just starts boom, lightning and thunder, and we're looking outside, and it is raining. It is raining outside right now. It's like, it's raining. I shouldn't be surprised. I really shouldn't be, but it's blowing my mind right now. So everybody was freaking out, me especially, because that's the first time that I've actually seen the weather respond to a man's voice. It was incredible. One of the other really amazing things that I saw in Africa was the hunger of the people. We would go in and start church at around 6 o'clock, and we went all over South Africa. We went to about 10 different churches in a month, and Bobby Leger preached almost every single night, and sometimes he would preach in the morning and in the night. So it was just constant church, constant church. But the interesting thing was the amount of hunger that the people had. We'd go into church maybe 6 o'clock in the evening, and there was one night where we didn't get out of church until 1:30 a.m. in the morning. That's a long church service. But the cool thing was that it wasn't boring in the slightest, because God was speaking through Bobby Leger and giving incredible prophetic words. I realized why Jesus so often told the people that just got healed by him or just got set free, that just got released of demons, he told them, now go and don't tell anybody what just happened. I always was wondering, like, why would Jesus not tell anybody? Why would he say, don't tell anybody? And I realized it's because whenever you show people supernatural, when people experience the supernatural, it is contagious. And people will not leave you alone. That's why we would stay at the church until 1:30 in the morning, because every single person in that church wanted a prophetic word, because they saw that it was accurate. And when you can hear from God, people want to hear from God. When you can heal the sick, people want to be healed from sicknesses.
One of our pastor's wife, Eric Loyne's wife, Merle, got cancer, but of the abdomen, and it spread right through her whole body, and the doctors gave her like 3 months to live. She'd been battling for a long time with it. The doctors gave her 3 months to live and said, that's it, we can't do anything more for you, you're going to die. So she buys air tickets to go to Disney World in America. So she had a dream to take her children to Disney World. So I go to her and I say to her, Merle, come on, go with me to TB Joshua. I'll take you, I'll arrange it. We'll organize the tickets, everything. Just before you go to Disney World, please come with me to TB Joshua. She says, okay, she'll come. Her husband agrees. So she's standing there in the circle. We're standing in like a circle. And she's standing in the circle there. And he comes. But his method of prayer was completely different from anybody I've ever seen. So he says to Merle, step out. So she's thinking to herself, like I was, I'm not so sure I want to step out. He says, step out. So then she thinks, well, what have I got to lose? I'm going to die. Let me step out. So as she steps her first foot out, she hits the dust. But there was just dust. It wasn't cement or carpet floors. It was sand. She hits the dust. She's lying there in the dust. She gets up and she feels completely better. At the end, he interviews the people, the foreigners that he's prayed for. He does a private interview. So he sits with her and he says to her, I saw that you had a placard that said abdominal cancer, because that's where her cancer started. So she only wrote abdominal cancer. He said, but I didn't see it. He said, I saw cancer into your fingertips. He said, by the way, if you didn't come here in 3 months, you would be dead. You know that she's still alive today? They could not find a trace of cancer. She came back completely healed, not a trace of cancer in her body. The doctors then said her doctor said, because of the chemo and all the therapy that you've had, you need to go for a bone density test. Sent her to a doctor that does the bone density test. The doctor said, why have you come here? I've done the test, but I don't understand why you've come here. She said, because my doctor required me to come here. At that stage, about 40 years old, he said, lady, you have the bones of a 25-year-old girl. He will bring healing even to your bones.
You want to see miracles? Guess what? You can see them. If you seek after them, you will find them. Okay, whenever I went to Africa, my only reason to go was because I was so hungry to see the supernatural. I was so hungry that I didn't care how much it cost. There's a lot of things that had to be sacrificed. But I was seeking him until I found him. And guess what? I found him in a way that I've never... I honestly, it was kind of like a dream world. While I was there, I felt like I was in a dream. Where it was kind of like, wake up, Jonathan. Are you really experiencing the supernatural at this kind of a level? And I was. I really was. It was the most amazing experience of my life. I can tell you this. If you're hungry for it, you will be fed. What we need to do is do our part in seeking after him, believing that what he says is true, and and we will experience the supernatural. You'll learn about who Jesus is. You'll learn about what He expects from you. And actually open up your heart, open up your spirit, and allow the Holy Spirit to speak to you, to reveal things to you, so that you can get revelation that will change your life forever. It's not just religion. It's not just something your parents told you about. It's not some government control trick. It's not any of those things that we've been taught. It's the truth. Jesus is the truth. Experience it firsthand. Chase after Him. Seek Him until you find Him. I'm telling you, it'll change your life forever. Thank you for watching this video. Y'all have a blessed day.